The head of the United Nations has warned in his New Year message that the world is facing climate breakdown. Antonio Guterres called for action to cut emissions and switch to renewable energy. The World Meteorological Organization says climate change played out on an almost daily basis through 2024, with extreme weather events including floods, cyclones and droughts. Mr. Guterres was speaking earlier.
In 2025, countries must put the world on a safer path by dramatically slashing emissions and supporting the transition to a renewable future. It is essential and it is possible. I see hope in activists, young and old, raising their voices for progress. I see hope in the humanitarian heroes overcoming enormous obstacles to support the most vulnerable people. I see hope in developing countries fighting for financial and climate justice. I see hope in the scientists and innovators breaking new ground for humanity. And I saw hope in September when world leaders came together to adopt the Pact for the Future.
Well, our climate reporter Esme Stallard told us more about the importance of including the climate crisis in the Secretary-General's address.
It was mentioned last year in his New Year speech because 2023 broke the record for the hottest year. Now, we don't yet have the data for 2024, but based on the last 11 months of data that we do have, we expect this to break the record for the hottest year yet again. And I think it's very clear in Guterres' message that he wants to make clear that this is not just impacting in terms of extreme weather, but actually impacting on the UN achieving some of its other goals and outcomes. Remember, Antonio Guterres is the Secretary General for the UN as a whole. And so they have many priorities, not just climate change. They have priorities around education, around healthcare, around gender equality. And I think him referencing in this speech climate change is because he wants to make clear that actually those goals are also under threat if we don't tackle climate change. We know women are disproportionately impacted by climate change. We know previously that during the typhoon season that happened this year, children had to be taken out of school due to extreme flooding that affects their education. So even though climate change is just kind of one goal that the UN has to tackle as an issue, it does have a knock-on impact on their other areas. Whether this speech will drive change, it's very difficult. We saw at the COP conference, the annual UN climate conference in November, that countries couldn't come together on some of the key issues, particularly how they will deal with fossil fuels. So even though the evidence is quite clear that climate change is potentially getting worse, that temperatures are increasing, we're not quite seeing if that is enough to kind of spur action when it comes to countries getting together on that global level.